about. Both of these houses, apparently, there doesn't seem to be any difference mentioned about them. So what we have to assume is that Jesus says that both one group and the other group built an identical house, or at least a house of an identical quality. Then, what else do we have? Next section of comparison tells us this, and this is interesting. So verse 24, everyone who hears these words of mine. And then verse 26, and everyone who hears these words of mine. Both of these groups heard the words of Jesus. So again, we are not talking about a professional general contractor building a house over here, and over here is Miloš with his youth trying to build a house. I wouldn't even walk close to there. I'd be like, first I would need to round up the youth. Yeah. Then tell them what's happening, then I have to chase them to get them back to it. But we are talking about same quality information. Both of these groups heard the word. They know what Jesus' teachings are. They know what quality information is in order to build a house. So it's not about an ignorance. It's not about lack of knowledge, apparently. Okay, what else do we have? So the next one is, I already mentioned, both of them built the same house. And then the third thing is, verse 25. And the rain fell and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And then verse 27. And the rain fell and the floods came, and so on. One thing that we can see is that both of these houses faced the same crisis, possibly even at the same time. The same storm hit both. There was no special protection for one instead of the other. I don't know if you remember The Simpsons, Homer Simpson. Do you remember his first neighbor? What was his name? Ed. Oh, Ned Flanders. Yeah, that's right. You guys remember Ned Flanders? Anybody, please. Okay. Like, come on. This was like an iconic show from the 90s, 2000s. But anyways, there is one moment when Homer, there is a fire in the town, and the fire catches Homer's house, and he's praying to God. He's like, God, what is happening? And then he sees like the house is catching Ned Flanders' house, who is a devoted Christian. And he's like, you see, there is no God. Both of these houses are burning. And suddenly a small cloud shows up and rains down on Ned Flanders' house. And he's like, oh! No, he's, no! You remember that? None of that we can see in here. No. We have two groups of people, or two types of people. They do the same work. Both of them are capable of creating the same quality work. They have the same information, which means that they're educated, trained, or just they know what they're doing. They built the same house, and then that house gets hit by the same storm. Now, let's try to put this in a perspective. You're driving down the road, and there is a house on one side. It's beautiful, real nice two-story house with vaulted ceilings and beautiful big windows and curtains in there and a big nice yard in front of it. You look at the house on the other side, ranch style, really nice house, flat, big wide roof with sun windows on the top, and you can see through a lot of light in there, and beautiful hardwood floors. You look at this house like, these are nice houses. I would really like to check them out. So, you come to that house. What do you think the host would show you first? Hey, come on, let's go. Let's go to the basement. Like, I don't want to go to the basement. No, come on, we're going to the basement. You have to see this foundation. You have to see, the foundation is amazing. It's going to be blown away. Who would do that? If somebody comes to your home, is the foundation first thing you show them? Do you even show them the foundation? Foundation is not something that is visible in the house. You see everything else. You see the nice facade. You see the windows. You see the entrance, the big hardwood door. You see all of these fancy things. Now, let's transfer that into real life. Look around. You don't know who is foolish, who is wise, right? Because all of us look nice. I miss my tie. I'm partially foolish, I guess. But all of us look the same, right? All of us look decent, fine. All of us look as a house that was professionally built by a professional general contractor. Occasionally, someone would show up, like, or hairy and smelly of alcohol or something, and then they need some help to get that house put in order. But on most occasions, people around us, at least here at the church, you wouldn't be able to say it, right? Who is who? Now, let's talk about the differences. What does the Bible say about differences? Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And then verse 26, a foolish man who built his house on the sand. First difference we see has nothing to do with the house. And then really, I was told that I'm going too deep with this, that Jesus didn't really mean all of these things. I really think he did. And here is why. Because it's not about what you build. It's about where you build it. It's all about the soil in this story. It's not about the quality material. It's not about the quality of information. It's solely about a location that you choose to build your life on. That one thing determines. It's not the plumbing. It's not the electrical. It's not the isolation. It's the soil that determines. We have a lot of electrical wiring redone in our head in order for us to come to church, right? It's so much nicer to sleep in on Saturday night. But no, we rewire that. No, I gotta go to church. I'm not saying that's bad. On the contrary, that is really good. But that is not what determines the solidness of this house. We have a lot of isolation that we do. How are you doing? I'm fine. Except the cancer, but I'm fine. You understand what I'm saying? We have our isolation all over to kind of bounce off all of those things. But it's not about that. It's about where we build. Because different soil is identified with a different outcome. Verse 25. But it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And then verse 27, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. Now, these builders get a different label. Not on the quality of their work, not on the quality of their knowledge, but on the final outcome. When the house fell, one builder was called foolish, and when the other house didn't fall, that builder was called nice. So, these guys, they didn't even get this title until later down the road. When I mentioned that Pastor Gordon's story about rockets targeting Tel Aviv, it brought pretty vividly my memories from the 90s. I remember seeing rockets flying over my house and exploding in fair proximity of it, and it was traumatizing for a teenager, for a college student at the time. But it brought back reality that I completely forgot about. And it's not just reality that I forgot about because it was that long ago. It wasn't really that long ago. It was reality I wanted to forget. I'm not the only one who went through that experience of war And we remember, like, this is the stuff that you don't want in your head. Because it messes you up. It really messes you up. The reality in this story is not reading the news, "Oh, rockets hit Tel Aviv." The reality of this story is being in Tel Aviv, listening to the radio station telling you get in the basement because rockets are coming. The reality of the story that we just read is not about the whole process of building a house. The reality of this story is not here, right now. The reality of this story of a storm flood hitting is when you get fired, when your spouse wants to separate, when your kid ends up in jail, when you're diagnosed with scary illness. You guys have no idea. And I really hope nobody ever does. When Georgina was diagnosed with aneurysm, like everything changes. The whole system of values changes. I remember like a month ago when she had that first appointment with the doctor, I was over there in the morning with them, we were talking. I walked in the waiting room, she and her husband were there, and you can feel that tension, that like lack of breath in both of their lungs, like that short, you know that short smile with thin lips. And then we started talking about stuff. I was just trying to talk, and they were talking about travel, and they were telling me about their travels. They would, on Sunday morning, they would drive to Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, just to have lunch and then drive back to Denver because they love driving and they love camping and they got an RV, blah, blah. And then after she was about to go there, she said, you know what, this year we should fix that RV. It's been broken for so long, we should fix it, we should go on a trip. We should spend more time with our kids. And busy until storm comes. And just swipe us off of our feet. That's where we see the wisdom or the foolishness of our choices in our life. And storms come. All of us know that very well, in various forms. And these storms are going to test us. Now the question is, what is the soil? Where are we supposed to build on? Look at this. And everyone who hears these words of mine and everyone who hears these words of mine and does them. And then verse 26, and everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them. This week, I challenge you, go back home and read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Jesus says that the only way that we can stand in the midst of trouble, in the midst of pain, in the midst of tribulation, is if we do what He tells us to do. And you go back and read these verses in 5, 6, 7, like, this is going to be crazy. Do not be anxious about tomorrow. Tomorrow will be anxious about yourself. Oh my goodness, I wish that happened sometime. Don't you? Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Don't flip off those who cut you off. And you say your brother a fool, you will be guilty to the fires of hell. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more comes from the evil. You're the light of the world, a city on the hill. And then you keep reading and you keep digging through and you realize, like, I'm really not good at this. I would love to, but I'm really not good at this. What then? What when you come to realization that you have the knowledge, but you can't deliver? You're supposed to build a house, but you don't have the ability to do that. What do you do? Who are you going to call? I'm not going to make a joke this time. You call the builder in, right? You read, and if your eye is causing you to sin, take it out. I don't want to take my eye out. I did LASIK. This is very precious next couple of years until I pay it off. I don't want to get my eye out. Well, what do? Well, you call in the builder to fix it. Lord, I got some help with this. Love your enemies. Lord, I can't love them. And you go back day after day after day, coming back to builder and asking him to rebuild the house. You see, that is what Jesus wants. This is my impression, what Jesus really wants us to do. The whole idea of this last story over here is not just, okay, now you go and do it, and then you'll be fine. Because he knows that we cannot do this. This is beyond our capabilities. The whole idea of this last story that we're studying today is creating a habit to go back every day to the builder. I read the Bible, I look at my life, I see the void in between, and I go back to the builder. Lord, you need to fill in this void, please. Day after day after day. This is the beauty of our faith. The supernatural element is there. We just don't give it a chance. God wants to talk to us. He wants to walk in and make a difference, but we are the ones who don't give him that chance. We are the ones who don't invite him every single day to help us rebuild this. You look at the Bible, I have to do this, Lord, help me. And then you go and try. And then you fail, and then you ask again. Think about it, move on. After a while, you realize things are moving. This is not a fairy tale, my friends. Seriously. This is how things work, and this is how they really work. I witnessed that not just in my life, in lives of other people. It's not enough to know. Action is mandatory. But we have a problem. We have a major problem here, and that problem goes one story back. And now, even though Pastor Gordon preached on it last week, I would just like to touch it real quick because it will make a little bit of sense. Here's the thing. Even though I just said it a minute ago, you have to go and do it. And now I'm going to tell you, no, that's not enough. And here's why. Look at this. So open your Bibles, verse 21. Verse 21, just a few verses before. This is what Jesus makes so confusing at first, but then when it's cleared out, like, okay. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And look at this now. This is where the problem is hidden. Verse 22. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? Like, what in the world is happening here? These guys just come to Jesus and tell them, but we did all of these things. You told us to do it, so we did it. We did everything that you did. And Jesus is pretty much saying the same thing. Jesus was the one who was healing, who was doing miracles, who was casting out demons, who was prophesying. His students were the ones who were doing the same. And now suddenly there is a group of people who does that, but he calls them the doers of lawlessness. What? Didn't we just talk about going out there and doing things? And then the people who do it are called out as the ones who Jesus never knew. Does that make any sense? I hope you're listening. Jesus is trying to cover all the corners. Because Jews, at least Jews of his time, used to be very tricky and sneaky. If you read the Old Testament, you will see that God wrote lengthy commandments and then repeating a whole bunch of stuff just to make sure to cover every single loophole so they couldn't jump out. So Jesus is doing the same over here. In the story that we read first, he says, you have the knowledge, but if you don't act upon it, your house is going to fall. The previous verse tells us something else. You can go out there and do stuff, but if you don't know what my will is, even if you do things that I would do, it doesn't count. The reason I bring that up is because popular Christianity today has a lot of that experiential. You go to some places that just try to deliver an amazing experience, amazing musical performance, amazing message, and people are like, wow, that was so amazing. But then when you get into a depth conversation about some of them, you realize that a lot of them don't really know the Bible. They never read the Bible. They know all of the K-Love songs, but they don't know the Bible. Or if they do, they don't understand it. The risk of experiential spirituality is in these verses. You can go out there and have a time of your life, but if you don't have the knowledge of what the will of God is, whatever you do is not enough. The formula for success is very simple. Every single day, you will find a time, not before bedtime when you're dead beat or while you're driving being distracted. Give God a dedicated chunk of time every single day and then listen to Him talk to you. And then as He talks to you, you contemplate what are you going to do about it. Because otherwise, you're going to end up embarrassed, just like I did a couple of years back. I was thinking about sharing this story or not in the first service, and then Sean is like, so we went camping to Glendale Lake, and we usually try to be there like Wednesday afternoon while nobody's still there to catch the best places, because the best place over there is by the lake, and that is all sand. I was driving that Ford Bronco that Al Vargas donated for our church. I had all of the bunch of stuff loaded in it, and that car doesn't go fast. So I was the last one to get over there. So we get over there, and there's like one place to park, and Laura is over there with her little cute, beautiful little Rev, and she got stuck in the sand. And I'm like, oh, look at that, that's cute. The little car. Come on, move away, I'm going to park over there with my big Bronco. So we managed to push the car out, and I park over there. So the car sits over there for a few days, and then Sunday afternoon we were packing, we put everything in, and I sit in the car, and I try to get out. Of course, I get stuck. But that's fine. I'm fine. That's okay. 4-wheel drive. And I dig myself deeper and deeper in that sand. And like, what's going on? And I remember Alan was there like, dude, do you even know how to drive this? Like, yeah, I know how to drive this. You don't have a license, you don't have to tell me anything about it. And long story short, Laura came back with her beautiful, cute little Rev and pulled me out. But I was like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? Like, this car is supposed to go through everything, and I got stuck in here. On those cars, when you walk out on the front wheels, there's like a lock for the differential that you have to turn in order for 4-wheel drive to engage. Now, before we left, Gordon told me about it, but I wasn't paying attention. I really remember that. Like, he like, and I remember him telling me about the car and this and that, and we were loading the stuff, like, okay. And then when we got back, well, I told you about it. Well, yeah, you did, but yeah, somehow I missed that important piece of information. That is what I'm talking about over here. We can't miss either one or the other. I had the tool in my hands. I had the knowledge in my hands. I didn't use it right. God gave us our body. God gave us our life. He gave us the tool. He gave us the knowledge. We need to combine it right. Look at this. Verse, let's go together to this verse. Psalm 119, 105. I bet some of you know this verse by heart. Psalm 119, verse 105. Let's try it out. Your word is a lamp unto my and a light to my. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. This is what the word is. This word gives us direction. The words of Jesus, the words of God, we have it right in here. This is an instruction manual for our life, my friends. And we very often neglect it. As we generally do with instruction manuals, don't we? How many of you actually read instruction manual before using new stuff? Only one hand, I figured. 1.5 hand. We had one hand and one wavering hand. Yeah. Before we had this projector over here, that projector that's over there in the back, it's a short throw projector. We had it hanging over here. There are still hooks over there where it used to hang. So I remember there was 3 of us setting it up. So we pulled the ladder and put it up there. And now you need to go up, put the wires in, and then somebody had to go up with the projector and hook it on. And these 2 guys didn't have the guts to do it. I nearly died, but I was paid, so I didn't have a choice. So I'm up there with the projector, and they're like, do this. So eventually, we put the projector, and the projector keeps dipping down. And like, we were not really sure what to do, so we take it down, and one of the guys, he just took the wrench. He's like, okay, this is not going anywhere anymore. So we put it back in, we center it, it's fine. All right, so we are not moving this projector anywhere anymore, ever. We come back, and the box is over there. Like, guys, we have extra pieces. Like, okay, we have some pieces left that we're missing. Apparently, there was a piece, there was a lever that is supposed to hold the projector in certain position. Once you let it hang by the gravity, then you adjust the projector, and then you put the lever to hold it. We didn't put that lever on because nobody bothered to read the instruction manual. So at this point, that lever is still downstairs in depths of my office somewhere. It's never going to be used again, but it's still there as a grim reminder of how important the instruction manuals are. And that's a simple story. I believe it happened to all of us. That we just misused some things because we didn't know how to use them. But we don't have that excuse, because everybody provides an instruction manual. We don't have an excuse when life starts crumbling, when our health starts crumbling, when our marriage starts crumbling, when our relationship with kids starts crumbling, when our work starts crumbling. We don't have an excuse because we have an instruction manual. All we need is to dig into it. I told you nobody's going to be laughing at the end. It's so simple to live an amazing life with God. It's so simple to live an amazing life. Life that is unaffected by the circumstances. Life that does not depend on what's happening around me or what other people tell me, think of me. Life that does not depend on my paycheck. Life that does not depend on how much fun I have in life. Excuse me. It's so easy to have a life like that. The instruction manual is right here. Are you too busy to open it? If you are, guess what's going to happen? The house is going to fall. Do you have only 15 minutes, a few times a week, to read the instruction manual? Guess what? The house is going to fall. Do you look at yourself acting inappropriately and saying, well, that's just what I am? Guess what? The house is going to fall. Do you look up to the heavens and say, Lord, okay, I know what to do. Now I need your help doing it because I really want to. Your house is going to stand. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. It's all about our choice of priorities. So I challenge you, don't wait for the things to get rough. Don't wait for next recession to lose your job to come back to church and pray more. I don't know if you guys remember, like a bunch of you was here during the recession in this church. We couldn't fit everybody. We really couldn't fit people. We had 150 people in attendance on occasions. Everybody was here. Pastor, I need a prayer. Pastor, I need a prayer. Look at this now. The good times are rolling. And apparently, we need a struggle in life to get us, to push us back to God. I hope that's not the way for you. God will bring a struggle. He will. But there is an easier way. We don't need struggle. We have an instruction manual. I challenge you to commit yourself to taking the time every day to open the Bible every day, to ask the Lord to talk to you every single day. Then the house is going to stand. Then you're going to raise your kids the way you really know they should be raised. Then you're going to work at your job exactly the way you know you should be doing it. Then you're going to have relationships with people and you're going to develop them exactly how Jesus would like to see them. But I challenge you, don't put your troubles first. Don't put your gain first. Put the instruction manual first. And allow the Spirit to fix stuff up while you read it. And the last verse that we're going to read today, and we're going to finish with it, it's Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. Everybody should know this verse too. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Right here is the instruction. And may the fear of the Lord drive you this week and in days that are ahead of you to read the instruction manual, to listen, to seek, to be Christ-like. Oh, the house is going to stand and it's going to thrive. And everybody's going to look up and say, wow, I want to be there. May that be our goal.